When you're hacking, not every target is going to be a Windows computer. There will be plenty of Linux machines out there, especially the servers. So let's make sure we know how to dump and crack the usernames and passwords from a Linux machine. Cracking passwords in Linux, we have two very clear text files we want to go after if we want operating system passwords. And those are etc password and passwd and etc shadow. So if we, in Linux, we don't need Metasploit for this, but we do want John the Ripper. If we say cat/etc/passwd, cat means concatenate or just read, press enter, and we can see a number of users here. Many of them, most of them are for services or applications, but some of them are for users. Like there's Chris and there's Moo. And if we wanted to see the file that the passwords are stored in, the shadow file, we would say cat/etc shadow. And we can see if you've got a long thing like this. So here's Moo's password hash, and here's Chris's password hash. The rest of these guys don't really seem to have passwords, but here's the root, which has a password hash. Okay, so we've got some users with some passwords. Let's just clear. Okay, let's just add a couple of users here. So we're already in his root, so we can just say user add Joe, and we're going to get prompted. Well, actually, we're going to now say passwd Joe. You have to be in root privilege to do this. So you see the little pound sign here. So hit enter, and let's put in Joe's password. Capital PA22W0RD. Capital PA22W0RD. Whoops, didn't type it right. passwd Joe. Capital PA22W0RD. Capital PA22W0RD. Okay, you notice it didn't show as I was typing. All right, let's add a couple more folks. User add Sally, and passwd Sally, and Sally will be bang pass1234. Bang pass1234. And then let's user add, or add user, that also works. Manny, and then passwd Manny, and the password will be capital P at @ssw0rd, capital P at @ssw0rd. And you can try this too. You can try some difficult ones as well. Let's try one more that's kind of weird. How about, let's see, let's user add Lily, and let's passwd Lily, and let's make her password like really long, like 12345 bang at $% QWERTY. Okay, one more time. 12345 bang at $% QWERTY. So I've got various people here. So if I cat etc passwd, I can see the people that I've added down here. And if I cat etc shadow, I can see their various password hashes. So one cool thing that John the Ripper has is something called unshadow. And unshadow will basically concatenate both the password file, the user file basically, and the password file. So etc passwd, etc shadow, and it'll put it together in a single text file that makes it easy for John. So we're going to say unshadow / etc passwd, and then /etc /shadow, and then greater than, let's call it mypassword.txt. And if we ls here, we should see mypassword.txt right here. Let's cat it. Cat mypassword.txt. And so we can see the various users with their various password hashes. Not all of these accounts have password hashes. That's okay. All right, so now let's use John, and we can do several things with John. So I'm just going to clear to make it easier. So John the Ripper, we don't have to actually find John the Ripper. We can just find John whatever. Now, John is actually kind of hard to use off the bat. It's a little bit cryptic, but we can do some simple things. So let's first just do a benchmark test of how well John will work on this particular hardware. We can just say John tac test. And it will run a benchmark, and it'll tell us how many characters per second it can do with different numbers of salts, and in going after the various algorithms, the various crypto algorithms here. So when we're through looking at the benchmarks, because then you can compare this to different computers and say, oh, John runs better on this one as opposed to that one. So right now, John has not really cracked any of these things, these passwords we saw. We could say John show, and then my password.text. John got some passwords right off the bat. How do you like that? Just bang. Okay. We can even specify a word list if we want. If we ls, we have the 1,000 most common passwords, something I downloaded. There are other password word lists. We could have John just use that one. Why don't we say John and word list. And John has its own defaults, and John will also brute force if it runs out of words. Word list equals 1,000 _most _common passwords. And let's see what else we're going to do. And let's do some mangling rules so that it will try to do some substitutions. So, and then let's go after my password.txt. I hope I typed this right. Hit enter, and it's going for it. Okay. So it has loaded seven password hashes with 7 different salts, SHA-512, crypt3, some different things. Okay, remaining 4 password hashes with 4 different salts. Okay, we found some right off the bat. So we found Manny, we found Joe. We'll let it run for a little bit. We can Control-C to abort at any time. And what it does is it saves the passwords in the password file that the mypassword.txt. It saves those there. And if we do the John show, it'll show what it knows already. And it's based on the text file, the user and password file that you give it. So we're just going to let it run for a moment. We'll come back in just a moment, see how it's doing. And if it's taking too long, we'll abort and just see what it has so far. Okay, well, it only took a few minutes actually. And so it says that passwording here, done. It says it's done. Use the show option to display all the passwords, cracked passwords reliably. Session completed. So we can say John show, and then the password file. My passwords, or my password was my passwords. Let me just double check. My password.txt. And okay, so we've got this. Looks like some of them it did not do, so it ran out. Looks like it ran out. If we wanted it to brute force, we would probably have to tell it to brute force. But it ran through its list for all of these and cracked these. So it says it has 2 left. We'd have to give it a bigger text file, I think, a bigger dictionary. Wonder if we can. Let's just see here. Instead of the 1,000 most common passwords, I wonder if we can do this. Could we say word list equals USR share word lists rockyou.txt with like 14 million passwords. This one's going to take a while. Let's go for it. Why not? So this one might take a while. We might have to let this one run for a bit. Okay, we've let John run for about 15-20 minutes. We're going to break right now. If you want to in your own lab, let it run for a while, you can. We've had cases in class where people let it run all night, and it may or may not come up with something. We still have a remaining 2 password hashes, so 2 of them just didn't quite happen. But if we just show my password.txt, so I can see that I at least have these things that were figured out here. Still have a few that John has to crack. And that is, of course, the nature of password cracking. So that is how you crack passwords in Linux. Now, of course, if you have a Meterpreter prompt to Linux, you can be doing this remotely through your Meterpreter prompt. You don't have to do it locally like what we're doing here. But that is the basic, most fundamental procedure for cracking passwords in Linux.